So I want to welcome Dr. Ananda to the On Studio Facebook page. This is a first, and it's something that we're very grateful for to this current situation, which has brought an awful lot of things onto the internet. And Ananda has been very prolific on making lots of videos every day, which you'll find on his pages and his YouTube channels. And so we've taken this chance to ask Dr. Ananda to come on and give us a Satsangha. So it's the first time that we've actually done this, so it's rather exciting. Anybody who doesn't know Dr. Ananda, he is the son of Dr. Swami Geetananda and Yogacharini Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani. He is the chairman of the International Centre for Yoga Education and Research at Ananda Ashram in Pondicherry, that's in South India. And he's also the director for the Centre of Yoga Therapy Education and Research at the Sri Balaji Vidyapith University Hospital, also in Pondicherry. So I asked Dr. Ananda if he would come and talk on a topic that I thought was very interesting and very current, and that's to discuss the ancient texts, the wisdom from the yogis, you know, from thousands of years ago, and how everything that they thought and everything that they discovered is very relevant today with us and how we experience the world, and especially, you know, in the times with this pandemic that we're experiencing as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Ananda, and I'm going to sit back and listen.
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Kalavathi, for making this happen. And the world scenario, which we had not anticipated even 6 months ago, has really turned the world around to such an extent that someone like me, who was dead against online teaching, is now starting online teaching. So it's quite amazing what has happened in the last few months. And in many ways, it has actually brought people closer. And I think so many of the students worldwide would attest to the fact they're getting more out of me due to the lockdown than they would even get if they were doing a 6-month course here. And now that's saying a lot. And it's quite amazing, actually. The only time you get more is when you invite me on tour, as Kalavathi knows, and then I have no escape. So if I have no escape, then, you know, I'm just teaching and I'm being with you all the time. Whereas, you know, at home, you have all the home stuff to be done, office stuff to be done, that distracts you. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity that this period of time has brought out, that we can all connect virtually. And in many ways, in these virtual meetings, what is happening is we are all in the same place at the same time. And I think that's amazing. We are actually all in the same place at the same time. That doesn't happen when we try to have a physical meeting. So I have seen a lot of positives come out of this time. And it is not to negate the suffering. It is not to negate the downfall that has happened all over the world. But at the same time, to remember, as Swamiji so beautifully has told us, every breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough. And I think this is where I'm going to start today, by invoking Swamiji's teachings, the lineage with the Guru, Parampara Gayatri. Join me wherever you are as we chant the Guru Gayatri. Tad Paramparaye Vedmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayate. Om Gama Shri Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Swamiji's words, every breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough, reflect the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, that is an amazing text of 18 chapters, about 700 verses, put in the middle of the great battle, the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata war, and the first day of the Mahabharata war is said to be the first day of Kali Yuga. And the Indian calendars say we are about 5,200 years into Kali Yuga, which dates these teachings 5,000 years ago at least. Now that's a very long time. But as we have seen, even in 3 months, the changes in this world are so drastic. So imagine what type of changes could have happened over 5,000 years. Yet, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are as relevant today as they were 5,200 years ago. In the middle of the Mahabharata, what happens is Arjuna, who is the great warrior prince, the supreme bowman, the archer who cannot be surpassed on this planet. He is in the forefront of the battle with Lord Krishna, the divine consciousness in human form, as his charioteer. And they come up to the front of the battle, and Arjuna tells Krishna, "Take me a bit closer, I want to see the enemy." And when they get closer, Arjuna sees his own family members, the same cousins with whom they had grown up playing hide and seek and climbing trees and swimming around in the ponds, the same grand uncles who had had him on the lap, the same teachers who had taught him everything he knew about battle on the other side. And Arjuna gets into what Swamiji would call a sympathetic reaction, basically a panic attack. In modern times, we would call it a panic attack. And he breaks down. He has this adrenaline overload. He shivers, he trembles, and his big bow, the Gandiva, falls out of his arms. He is trembling. He's sweating. His heart is beating profusely. And he has this sympathetic overactivity, a panic attack. And he tells Krishna, "I'm not going to fight." Here's a guy who had vowed to destroy the enemy single-handedly, saying, "I cannot fight. Let them have the kingdom. I don't want it. Let me go home." Huh? Imagine. Such a breakdown happens for Arjuna. And it is at that very moment that Krishna, the divine consciousness, gives us the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. I like to say this is the second recorded counseling session in human history. It's an amazing psychological counseling session. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, the 18 chapters, the first chapter starts with what is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the despondency of Arjuna. And they even call it a yoga. People say, how can despondency, dejection, depression, how can it be a yoga? Well, anything that enables you to transform yourself is yoga. Anything that enables you to transform yourself is yoga. It doesn't matter whether it looks like the modern image of yoga or not. Because many things that look like yoga may not be yoga because they don't transform you. Without self-transformation, it cannot be yoga. And because this breakdown of Arjuna is the foundation, is the springboard on which the conscious transformation of Arjuna can manifest. And that is why it is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of the despondency of Arjuna. What an amazing concept. Now you heard me say this was the second recorded counseling session in human history. You then say, Dr. Ananda, which is the first? You know, this is what you have to be a good storyteller. Make people think in the mind. What could be the first? What could be the first? When is he going to tell us that? And they don't hear what you're saying. They're so busy thinking, what is the first? The first one is where Lord Rama. Yes, Rama comes before Krishna. That is how Indian tradition enables us to know the time frame. It is always Rama Krishna, never Krishna Rama. And that is why Lord Rama, as the perfect human being, had to incarnate before the divine consciousness could descend into human form. It has to go in a step-by-step manner in that evolutionary journey. Lord Rama as a teenager, and anybody who's had teenagers, Kalavathi has a couple and I have a couple, and everyone knows that's not the easiest part of parenting at all. Because you have this surge of emotions, and bipolarity at its extreme, surge of emotional overactivity, emotional volatility, where every moment is a life or death moment. You didn't get me that new pen. It's a life or death moment. You didn't get me that new dress. You didn't let me go out with my friends for whatever they want to do. Watch a movie or go to the park or go to the pub or God knows what people want to do. Rama's in his teenage. And like all teenagers, goes into a despondency and what is life all about? Is this why we were born? My father's no good, my mother's no good, my brothers are no good, my friends are no good, this kingdom is no good. You know, the usual stuff that goes on. And so his father, King Dasharatha, calls their Kula Guru, the Grand Master, the teacher, the Guru for the family, who's Vashishta, and says, Gurudev, please counsel this young guy and get him back to his senses. As a father, I'm not able to do anything. And this amazing session where Lord Rama as a teenager is counseled and given the teachings of life by the great Rishi Vashishta is captured in that immortal classic Yoga Vashishta. Now, these two scriptures are vital when we want to understand ourselves. Because the breakdown is nothing to be ashamed about. But if we don't use it as a breakthrough point, if we don't use it as a springboard for transformation, well, then maybe we at some point are going to feel bad about it. When my father was living in Canada, in those days he was still Anand Bhavanani, which leads to confusion. Who's the Anand Bhavanani that wrote the Yantra book? Well, it's not me, it was my father. But because he was called Anand Bhavanani in those days, the book still carries Anand Bhavanani. And to differentiate, we have the Bala Yogi in between. He sent one of his students to India to study with his guru, Swami Kanakananda. And Swami Kanakananda was a tough master. He really made sure you were blown to pieces. So Swamiji's student who had come to meet Kanakananda wrote back to Swamiji and said, Ananda, your guru has blown me to pieces. What do I do now? And Swamiji replied back, pick up those pieces, see which are the pieces you want to be you, and put yourself back together again as a wholesome being with the pieces that you choose to put together. This is the message we need right now for humankind. Humanity is at a threshold of transformation. We have a potential moment of transformation thanks to the catalyst COVID-19. COVID-19 is the catalyst that is giving us an opportunity to realize whatever we thought was normal is actually not normal. It is not normal to destroy the planet which is giving us life. It is not normal to keep on adding on things. And now we are sitting at home and we realize we don't need anything. In 6 weeks, 7 weeks, most of us haven't bought a new pair of clothes. Now that same 6, 7 weeks, how many pairs of clothes people would have bought? How many unnecessary travels we would have done? Well, I would have been in the Europe right now if it hadn't been for this. The original plan was to be in Europe in May and then come back in July to the UK. Well, a lot of carbon footprints have been saved because there are no flights anymore. What we thought was impossible, if someone had said the planet will be a better place if you can stop flights for a month, we would have said, not possible. COVID-19 comes in and it's become possible. Impossible has become I am possible. Can you stop using your car all the time? Well, we realized how much we were overusing it. It's amazing, actually. So an opportunity we have right now is very similar to the opportunity that Arjuna and Lord Rama had at those moments of breakdown, where they felt that everything had collapsed. Everything they thought was real was unreal. It is like the moment in the Matrix also, where suddenly he realizes nothing is real. It's one of those Vedanta moments. You realize everything is Maya. We are at such a moment now. And that is why these teachings are as valuable, as relevant today, because the same emotions that Arjuna went through, we are going through now. We feel claustrophobic. We feel cornered. We are locked down. We are not able to do things the way we want to do them. What we thought was normal is not normal. We have no clue what to do. All of us. Every day I'm going through that emotion. What am I to do? How am I to deal with this? What is the next step forward? These are questions that are coming. And the more these questions come, the more we are having to rethink our priorities. And what we thought was essential, we are realizing may not be so essential. And what we had not valued, we start to realize maybe we need to value that more. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a very beautiful concept which is very apt for the present moment, because it describes the whole stress response, or rather the stress reaction. And Krishna says, it all starts by our pondering on the objects of the senses. And this is what we are all caught in. We are constantly caught in that. Caught in this snare, the web of the senses. And all the sensory experiences are primarily of a subcortical nature, which means basically they belong to our spinal level of reactivity. All of this. And what are these doing? They are constantly bombarding us with information, and our senses are constantly going out. What can I grab? Can I get that? Can I get some more? Can I get some more? Can I get something to eat? Can I get something to smell? Can I get something to taste? Can I get something to hear? And the sensory apparatus is constantly engaged in the objects of the senses. That is the bottom line where it all starts. And Krishna tells us, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa, when we start to ponder those objects of the senses, he says what happens is we start to get attached to them. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa, Sangasteshu Pajayate. Sangha means to get attached, to come together. So the sensory objects are there. We go and latch on to them. Our hook is like, when you climb mountains, you put hooks and then you climb. What we are doing is we are hooking ourselves onto the senses, the objects. The objects are just there. That is why it is not the fault of the object. This is something we need to understand. Why did you eat all those potato chips? They were there. Huh? Potato chips are there. You don't have to go and get them. But what do? They are there, so we take them because we have gone and latched onto them. One of the simple examples. We see something. Why do we get involved to it? Because of that. It is there. The objects are there. And that is why Krishna says, the moment you start pondering about the sensory objects, you attach to them. From that attachment comes the desire. So desire actually, according to this, is coming later. It's not the desire that comes first. You latch on to the sensory objects, create a link, and then comes the desire. Kamat. Now the problem is, most of their desires will not get fulfilled. It's like right now, everybody wants to get on the next plane and go on holiday. It's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen. As I told my kids yesterday, even in the near future, if I decide to go someplace for 1 week, I'm going to have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine the moment I get there, and then 2 weeks in quarantine when I come back, which means for 1 week of travel, 4 weeks of quarantine. I don't think I'm going any place too soon with that type of regulation. See, the thing is, what happens is that we have this desire, and desire is not bad in itself. This is why in Indian concepts, you have the word karma. And immediately people say, oh, karma, you have to burn it. Yes, Kama Dahana Karunakara Lingam. Shiva, as the compassionate one, burns away desire. Absolutely true. But desire, legitimate desire, is part and parcel of the Indian scheme when we talk about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, 4 concepts. We fulfill our responsibility, Dharma, and then we will have fulfillment in Artha, which is material prosperity, Kama, which is emotional prosperity, and then comes Moksha, spiritual prosperity. Material prosperity, emotional prosperity, and spiritual prosperity are definitely legitimate goals when one has fulfilled one's dharma, which is responsibility. That is why dharma as responsibility is the foundational bedrock on which everything else can be built. Legitimate desires are accepted. But what happens is we never stop with desire, because we never stop with need. And that is why the Mahatma Gandhi's beautiful statement, there is enough on this planet for every person's need, but not enough for any one person's greed. It is this greed which is the problem, because what happens is the sensory object, you have latched onto it, and now you want it. And you just don't want 1, you want 2, not 2, you want 99, not 99, you want 999, and you want it right now. I want it right now because I am me. Isn't that the typical consumeristic tendency that has become the normal till COVID-19 says, do you really need it? And that is why Amma recently talked about COVID-19 as an excellent yoga teacher. She said the COVID-19 is a very good yoga teacher. It's made everybody sit still, go inside, behave yourself, have some discipline. And that's what a yoga teacher should be doing, not the consumer-oriented yoga teacher who says do anything you want as long as you sign up for my classes, which is the modern approach. The consumer is always right. When your students start to become your consumers and customers, we have that problem. There is an issue there. See, what is very important here is to realize that overwhelming desire that comes is so unfulfillable. It is such a bottomless pit. It will never get fulfilled under any circumstances. It will never get fulfilled. And that is why Krishna says the next one, from kamat, from this unfulfillable desire, comes krodha, comes anger and rage. When our desires are not fulfilled, we get into a rage. Now, anger is not bad. Anger is an amazing tool, but rage is where you lose all control. When the emotion overpowers you, you lose yourself. And that is where rage comes in. When we talk about krodha, it is not just anger, it is rage. And we all know what happens, road rage, where people, kill each other for nothing. You suddenly brake before me. And so I get out of the car and shoot you dead. Now, where is the humanity in that? Where is the cortical thinking in that? It's not there at all. Because that emotional volatility has so overpowered the individual, they are not thinking anymore. That is krodha. And Krishna says, from this krodha comes some moha, which is basically delusional psychosis. You lose all control that is there. Moha. People translate it as infatuation. Now, infatuation is such an innocuous word. They say, oh yeah, infatuation. Delusional psychosis makes you think a bit about it. It's important how you translate these words. Infatuation, oh yeah, I also used to have infatuations. And when I was a kid, I was infatuated with that girl or that boy in my class. And oh, it was such a nice feeling. For God's sake, we had to get out of that, okay? We had to get out of that. Too bad, I cannot get my gangster yogi stuff onto this. Delusional psychosis is what happens to us. And what happens is we are not we anymore. We don't know what came over us. You hear people talk about this. They say, I don't know what came over me. I would never have done it. And yet I did it. That moment where the control is lost. Krishna, 5,200 years ago at least, has talked about the exact reaction that we as a human race are having today. Now, first of all, we pride ourselves as human beings because we say we are the supreme of the evolutionary ladder. The Greek philosophers had a very good way of describing human beings. Aristotle, Plato, and all those guys. They describe the human beings as featherless bipeds, basically plucked chickens. That's actually how they described us, bird brains. And that's actually what the Greek philosophers were doing. They were calling us bird brains. And doesn't seem too far when you look at the type of politicians we elect around the world. We elect bird brains because we seem to be bird brains. Featherless bipeds. That's what we were called. And then one of the philosophers, they used to have beautiful arguments, okay, debates, not the modern mud slinging that comes in the name of debates. It was actual intellectual debates. So after a few meetings, a guy comes in with a plucked chicken and he says, is this your human being? And so they say, oh my God, we made a mistake. We had to fine tune our definition of a human being. And so they said, well, chickens have curved nails and human beings have flat nails. So they said the human being can be defined as a flat-nailed, featherless biped. So whenever we pride ourselves of being these thinking human beings, remember the Greek philosophers were not too far off the mark. Because if you're not using the human part of your cortical structure, your thinking process, when I say you, I mean all of us, okay? We are no better than a bird brain. It is only when this comes in that the actual humanity in us, the humaneness in us comes alive. So Krishna says, from the sensory objects, you think of them, you ponder on them, you attach to them. From that comes desire. From that unfulfillable desire comes rage. From that rage, you go into delusional psychosis and you have no idea what's happening. And he says, from sammoha, smriti vibhrama, all loss of memory goes out. You forget who you are. You forget where you are. You forget what is going on. You forget what happened the last time you got into this type of emotionality. And what happens is you go deeper into your well. You're just going into that quicksand, deeper, 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 deeper. And Krishna says at that point, Buddhi Nasha, all your capacity for reasoning is lost. The Buddhi, this is the higher intellectual capacity of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. That aspect of us that has two very important capacities, the twin wings. If we are going to be bird brains, let's have two good wings to fly on. Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka is discernment and Vairagya is non-attachment, metacognitive objectivity. When we can have the capacity to have discernment, and when we have the capacity to look at ourselves as if it is somebody else looking at us or we are looking at somebody else, at that point, we can start to see what is happening to ourselves. We have a third person's perspective of our own self. And that is why people often talk about yoga as a subjective experience. Yes, absolutely yes. But there has to be an objectivity towards that subjective experience to know whether you are having that experience or just deluding yourself. One of the antarayas, the obstacles on yoga sadhana, according to Patanjali, is called Bhranti Darshan. Bhranti means false, Darshana means a vision or a perspective. He says there is an obstacle on sadhana, which is a false perception that you have made it. You think you're already enlightened, and so you don't have to work anymore. You think you're already in samadhi, so you don't need to do anything else. You think you're already God, and so you don't have to do anything. And the problem is, this is part of that delusional psychosis situation I was telling you. And there are so many people who think they're already there when they have not even gotten off the gluteal muscles yet. And I'm being very nice there. Gangster yogi would put it as get off your, you know what. Huh? They think they've already made it. Bhranti Darshana is such a major issue in us human beings. We already think we are perfect. Huh? We think we are perfect. Okay. Swamiji's statement comes back. If you think you're perfect, get married. And last time I was there at the Om Yoga Studio, which has that psychedelic elephant outside. When I was there, it was amazing. Kalavathi said, well, you know, I'll add to it. Swamiji's statement was, if you think you're perfect, just get married. And Kalavathi says, if you think your marriage is perfect, just have kids. I think it's a beautiful message. See, the thing is, anything that teaches us about ourselves, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be ugly, it doesn't matter. If it can teach us about ourselves, we offer it reverence as an epitome of the Guru spirit. I nearly said Guruhood. Guru spirit. Guruhood sounds a bit gangster. See, Krishna, when talking about this, he says it all starts when we start to ponder about the sensory objects. That is where it starts. And before we know it, what has happened is that we have gone down this path that ends with the destruction of the self. We end up destroying ourselves. And that is why it's an amazing verse, which I'll just chant it. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat samjayate kama kamat krodho abhijayate krodhad bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibhrama smriti bhramshad buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranaschati. It is an amazing sequence that has been described in the Bhagavad Gita. A sequence that enables us to understand where the whole key lies. And that is why Krishna doesn't just describe the problem, he also gives us the solution. And the solution he gives in the next verse, where he says, how can someone be stable in such a mad world? You know, I think it was the Quakers, they used to have a statement which used to say, you know, I think the whole world is mad except you and me. And some days I wonder about you too. Something like that. We live in a mad world. And sometimes it's a bit weird what is normal and what is abnormal, because often what is normal may be abnormal and what is abnormal may be normal. It is actually a very interesting play that happens in the world. But Krishna tells us what is it that can enable us to transcend this type of destruction. He says the key. And whenever Krishna and Patanjali come together on the same topic, I just love it, because if you can get those two guys accepting and saying the same thing, you know, definitely you don't need any more, you know, reference to context. It's perfectly there. And what happens is that he says, Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu. He says the key here is Raga Dvesha. Raga and Dvesha are the pulls of the opposites, the pair of opposites, the likes and the dislikes, and the thumbs up and the thumbs down on YouTube's. These are the pairs of opposites. And what happens is both of these pairs of opposites, they pull us off balance. It doesn't matter whether the pull is towards the like or the pull is towards the dislike. Both have succeeded in pulling us away from our steady balance. You know, if you take a seesaw, we all have these seesaws. Balance is not on this end or that end. Balance lies in the center. In the old scales that they used to use in markets before the digital scales came, and you know, in India we still have it. So they'll put, you know, a weight on one side and then the vegetables on the other, and it goes up and down until they are equal. Balance doesn't lie in the extremes. Balance lies in the center. And that is why yoga is all about the golden mean. The same thing Buddha talks about. That golden path of the moderation. In yoga, it is called yukta, Y-U-K-T-A, which basically means yoked, to yoke together. It's the same root word from which the word yoga has come, to be yoked together. When the opposites are not pulling in different directions, but you have created a harmony by going on the middle path. Imagine you had two buffalo or bulls or two horses pulling your cart, and one of them decides to go right and one decides to go left. What happens to your cart? Your cart ends up going nowhere. So these two have to go together. That is what is balance. The yukta is about finding the middle path between the opposites. And that is why the concept of yukta in everything, be it your food, be it in your sleep, be it in your activity, everything needs to have yukta as part of it. That is, again, Krishna's concept in the Bhagavad Gita. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapno vavautasya. He says in sleep also there should be moderation. In food also there should be moderation. In rest also there should be moderation. In activity also there should be moderation. When that moderation comes into every aspect of your life, he says, dukkha ha, that yoga, yogo bhavati, that yoga which is moderation, destroys all suffering. Dukkha, which is suffering, ha, which means to destroy. Dukkha ha. Yogo bhavati dukkha. That yoga which is yukta, that is moderation. Because that middle path is the path where you have transcended the dualities. This is also very much linked to Patanjali's concept of asana. And when you talk about asana in yoga, the concept of transcending the dualities is brought out in asana, dvandva anabhigata, that in the state of asana, one transcends the dualities. Now people say, what does that mean when I'm doing an asana? Well, physiologically speaking, it may be transcending the counterbalance points in your body. So you have muscles that work towards an action called the agonist. You have the antagonist muscles working against that action, and you are transcending them so that you are not pulled by either one, and you have come into a steady state. That is a physiological explanation. But an asana is actually a state of being, asi, which means to be, A-S-I. You know that beautiful word, asi, which means to be. And that is why there is a Vedic teaching, Tattvamasi, thou art that highest. When you are being. And that is why the best message I've got out of this whole lockdown is just be. That's actually the whole message. If you ask me, Dr. Ananda, what is the greatest message you have got to yourself in this time? It is just be. That's all. That seems to be the highest state of what we can be. Because we are always caught with what are we doing. And COVID-19 says, stop doing, start being. You're supposed to be human beings, not human doings. So start being human. Stop doing human. Start being. That state of being, asi. So in an asana, the concept of asana is not what you do, but as a result of what you are doing, a state that you become. You get established in sukha, ease. You get established in sthira, steadiness. You get established in your own state of steady ease, which is a steady balance. Steadiness becomes your, not second nature, it becomes your primary nature. You manifest steadiness. You manifest the quality of ease. Because now you are in that sukhasthan. And that is why one needs to understand that yoga is not about what you are doing, but what you are being. And the great master Ramana Maharishi, he was the yogi of the mountain, the saint of the mountain at Annamalai. It's a mountain not too far from Pondicherry, a few hours, 3 hours away, where every year in December, the top of the mountain is set on fire. They put tons of butter, Indian butter, ghee, and they light it up. And you can see it for miles on end, an amazing pilgrimage site. That mountain is considered to be the representation of Shiva as a column of fire. And at that mountain, Arunachala or Tiruvannamalai, Ramana Maharishi, one of the great, truly realized masters, he lived there. And people used to come and ask him, Ramana, what is the message? And he used to say in Tamil, Summa iru. Now, Summa iru in colloquial Tamil basically means shut up. Now, it doesn't seem nice that you go to this very peaceful looking master, spiritual master, and you say, what is the message, master? And he says, shut up. Sounds more like gangster yogi, not like a spiritual master. But what happened is that his statement is summa ire. Now, summa ire is a very, very interesting word, because in the vernacular colloquial euphemism, it is, shut up. But actually, what it means is just be. Summa ire. Ire means be, and summa means just. So the message that Ramana was actually trying to convey to his stupid disciples, and all masters have had these stupid disciples. It doesn't matter whether you had 4 as Patanjali had them, or you had 13 like Jesus had them. They've always been mad guys. The problem, as Swamiji would say, is with ignorant disciples. He did not use the word stupid, he called them ignorant disciples, which is a politically correct term for the same thing. Ramana was not telling them, shut up. He was saying, just be, which means stop this process of, I have to do, I have to do, I have to do, I have to do. And if I don't do, I don't think I am alive. Because we think that if we are not doing something, we are not alive. And that is why when you meet people, you say, how do you do? Then you say, why do you do? When do you do? How do you be? When do you be? Why do you be? It would sound odd, but that's actually what it is. How do you be? What is your state of being? That is your asana. Swamiji used to ask his students, he said, what is your asana? And they would go on, Shivasasana, Sarvangasana, Halasana, downward dog, upward dog. Swamiji didn't like that. He didn't like calling people dogs. Nowadays, you get a yoga teacher in a class and they're shouting to the class, down dog, up dog. Imagine students are letting teachers call them dog in class. It sounds like that. It's not even do the downward facing dog posture. It's down dog, up dog. You don't even talk to your dog that way. It would sue you in consumer court these days with animal rights. Kalavathi is struggling not to laugh because she knows she's live on camera. You just have to be, okay? We are not defined by what we do. We are defined by what we are. And the world has to change in that way, because defining somebody by what they do, the job title has become the way we identify ourselves. It is not the job title, but it is who we are and what we are. That is more important. And that is why the core of the principle of yoga was to be. So Krishna tells us, if you let the opposites pull you off from who you are being pulled into something that you are not. And that is why he says one has to transcend the opposites. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu. Vishayanindriyascha. And he says, then the person can move amongst the sensory objects without getting swayed. And he says at that point, Atma Vashe Vidayatma, the person who is content with themselves, Prasada Madhigacchati, has a beautiful sense of tranquility and serenity within. Clarity of mind occurs when you transcend the dualities, are not swayed by the senses, and are satisfied with yourself. Self-contentment. And that is why Santosha, which is one of the Pancha Niyamas, the 5 Niyamas of yoga, is such a valuable tool to have a sense of contentment. Now, people say, whenever I go and give a talk in management institutes and businesses, the big bosses get a bit upset when I talk about contentment, because you have to sort of fester discontent in order for people to reach targets. Last year, your target was 100 and you made it 110. So this year, your target should be 120. And you have to keep on improving yourself, not improving yourself, improving their profits so they can go on a vacation and buy a bigger car, nothing else. But anyway, they always wonder about it. Dr. Ananda, you just talk to all my employees and my faculty members, and you have told them they have to be content, but this is against our basic principle that drives the advertising agency. How can you be content with toothpaste that doesn't have salt in it? How can you be content with a yoga mat that doesn't have a specialized you are a yogi or I'm a yogi logo attached to it for an extra 5 pounds? How can you be content with your latest yoga leotard that doesn't sparkle in the bright sunshine? How can you be content with anything in your life? Because advertising, marketing is based on festering discontent. And it's all gone for a toss now. Because people are starting to realize They didn't need whatever they thought they needed because they were told they needed it by the advertisers. Santosha is when you have a sense of contentment, but this is not a dull contentment, which is like, okay, fine, life is like this and I'm going to sleep my whole life. No, that is tamasika discontent of another extreme. Contentment is when every moment you are doing your best and you are happy with whatever comes back. And the very next moment, you are again doing your best, which because of contentment has gone a step further. When you are content with yourself every moment, the next moment actually, the scale automatically shifts up and you are enhancing your own skillful action, which is why yoga as skill in action becomes another definition that goes with this. If you are dissatisfied, you can never be skillful. It is only in a sense of contentment that your skill will manifest in its abundance. And as it manifests, you are having a beautiful sense of self-rewardment. What is the reward here? The reward is not something you get from outside, but the reward is to have done the best you could have done at that moment. The reward is that you were the best you that you could be at that moment. And that reward spurs you on from within. It is not an external discontent that spurs you on. Because the external discontent would be two types, carrot and stick. If you show a better productivity, you are going to get a raise, and if you don't, you are going to get laid off. That's a carrot and stick external discontent that is being festered in the person. What we need is an internal contentment that I am going to be the best me that I can be. And in that contentment, suddenly you are the best skillful you. And before you know it, all those so-called targets have been surpassed. In my own academic career, what I have found happening again and again is whenever I was working on my research and its publications for the sake of just doing what I was doing to the best of my ability, I have surpassed all my expectations. But the moment targets have been set from outside, oh my God, I have to get this target. Oh my God, I have to get that target. Oh my God, I have to achieve it. Last time in 3 months, I had 5 publications, and this time I have to have 6. You know what happens? Not a single publication in 3 months. Because it goes the other way, it is counterproductive. Because it was not based on you being the best you, but you trying to be something else that somebody else had put on you. This is why the whole concept of yoga is not about what somebody else thinks about you, what somebody else expects of you, but it is all based on the firm principle that you are you, be the best you that you can be, and manifest that universality that is in you to the best of your ability. Whatever be your ability at this point of time, let that manifest. And as you transform, as you grow in the process of yoga, that will also grow. And suddenly 10 years down the line, you look back and you say, oh my God, when I look back and see at my publications, when I look back and look at my compositions, now that Divya is singing them, when I look back and look at our dance dramas, when I go back on YouTube and say, oh my God, look at what we have done. Why did we do it? Because that was the right thing to do. Not an externalized discontent. And that is why when we talk about the yama niyama, when we talk about these concepts in yoga, they are not just philosophical, metaphysical concepts to be, thought of once in a while, but are concepts of life itself, because yoga is life. Yoga is not something separate from life. Every moment when we live these concepts, the life in us is coming alive. And when life comes alive, we are fulfilling our dharma. But when we try to be something that we are not, and we start to live in a way that is not in tune with who we are, LIVE gets reversed. And L-I-V-E becomes E-V-I-L. Evil is not something that comes from outside. Evil is not something that somebody else puts to you. Evil is when we are not living as we are to live as a human being. Our responsibility as a human being is to be human. B-E, human. And that's why the bees already know it. They're already half the way there. They're already B-E-E. They're actually the advanced humans. Now we are still with B-E. They are B-E-E. The bees know it. That's why they are the most valuable persons on this planet. And thanks to COVID-19, I think we may get some bees back. Thanks to COVID-19, we are getting cleaner air. Thanks to COVID-19, water is getting purified. The Ganges, the Yamuna, the water is so much pure that they can even drink it now. Even here, it is only now that it's starting to get hot. It's amazing. And at night, it's still cool. And we're already into May. I'm just surprised at the change in climate. Because we have forgotten what it is to be human. Yoga is not about whether you can hold your breath for 40 seconds. Yoga is not about whether you can contortionistically turn your body upside down and inside out. Yoga is about you being yourself. And remember, each one of us on this planet is a unique specimen. No two humans have the same genotype, genetic structure. No two humans have the same iris prints. No two humans have the same fingerprints. And no two of us have the same dharma. Each of us has come here for a purpose. Each of us has come here for a responsibility. And when we become ourselves, that is when yoga manifests in us. And if we have lived in that way, with a sense of responsibility as a human being, L-I-V-E-D will be lived. If not, L-I-V-E-D gets reversed and it becomes D-E-V-I-L. And that is why we need to understand the devil is not someplace else. When we have not lived as we are meant to live, we become the devil to ourselves. And that is why yoga is about manifesting our potential, blossoming into our potential, not about being better at hand balancing than somebody next to you or bending backwards more than somebody else. It doesn't matter whether you can bend or not. It doesn't matter whether you can balance or not. If you are doing your best, you're already on the path. Do your best, leave the rest. People forget the first part. They think, leave the rest. Government will do it. No government can do anything. That's what the message has come in recent times. We have seen that the whole world doesn't know what to do. Everybody is struggling. All we can do is actually do our best wherever we are. That is the key. I think I've gone on a very long time, Kalavathi.
Yeah, quite a long time, over an hour. We're happy.
You get me going, and that's what happens. Is there anything specific you would like, any questions you would like me to try and answer? Or?
Oh gosh, I didn't have any at all. And I don't know anybody else. If they've been messaging on Facebook, I've not seen. Have you got the live feed there?
Yes, I have here. I shared it onto the Yognath family group, and Gargi, just be a C. Kathy Banner, good thing I have a notebook next to me. Some real gems being written down. Speaking of notebooks and writing down the teachings, Kathy, I must tell you, Swamiji had a student, Geeta from Australia, and she had a very nice small tape recorder. And she used to, in the 80s, record all of Swamiji's classes. And Swamiji used to tease her saying, Geeta, I don't know whether you will ever be enlightened or not, but your tape recorder sure will be. So often the students' notebooks are more enlightened than the students themselves. And yes, I don't really see any direct questions out here, but I'll just have another look here. But anything else, I'm just trying to see. Some people have had trouble finding the page. I think they didn't realize it's on the Home Studio page for whatever reason. So there's been, I think, a few have found themselves there. I'll just see if I can see anything on it. But
opportunity to run another session, Ananda, and have questions and answers pre-ready.
yeah, no, I definitely, I'm not going any place, and getting a bit more used to this type of stuff. In fact, what I'm finding is that this is a very good medium where such sharing can occur. And when we can share this way, well, Philip Jones, what would gangster yogi say about COVID-19? Well, gangster yogi tells COVID-19, well done, boss. You got those humans to be. And that's actually what gangster yogi will tell, because that would be a change that is there. But I'm not able to really get too much here. A lot of nice feedbacks there. There's beautiful. Adele, thank you for that. Corona means a crown. A crown. Where there's a crown, there are usually jewels. I think that's a beautiful point. In fact, we are always talking about the silver lining on the dark cloud. Here, I don't think it's just a silver lining. I think the dark is just the outline. The cloud itself is the silver, because for the first time, I'm actually hearing people talk about what a negative impact they have had on this planet in a very heartful manner. See, it's always been like, what is the government doing about it? What's the government doing about it? And what's the new law? And what's the new regulation on emissions and all that? But actually, it's been amazing. Couple of months, and the way the nature has sort of regenerated itself. I just cannot believe it. It's amazing. If just a couple of months nature can do this, what if, in the future, that we say, okay, once a month, there's going to be one day that everybody stays home, pretending there's a lockdown. Now, I don't see it happening because, greed is just too big, and you have the whole business mafia and all. But at the same time, just imagine what could be the change in the world. We are seeing it because we had no choice. Amma always likes to talk about this. She says, when you have no alternative, you're forced to do the right thing. And I think this is very important, that most of us on this planet today, we have no alternative but to do what we are doing and be what we are being. And we have had to learn it the tough way. So definitely, I think I would say that there's a lot of positivities coming out. I am not negating the human suffering. Please do not think I'm washing over the human suffering. There's a huge amount of human suffering happening at this time. Even in India, we are having a lot of issues with people who are not having jobs, those who are depending on day-to-day income, not having jobs, scarcity of resources, people not able to pay the rent of the places they are staying, and the owners of the place saying, but I cannot pay my bank loan if you don't pay my rent. And so, it's like, everyone is tied to everyone else. So I'm not downplaying the suffering at all. But everyone has had challenges in their own ways, and everybody's life has been impacted. So if there can be one global event that can impact virtually every human being on this planet, COVID-19 has done that. It's astonishing, and you cannot even see it. One of my friends was a doctor in the UK, sent me some information which was amazing, that if you take the weight of all the coronavirus in the whole world currently, it would be 1.5 grams. Now, I don't know what is the conversion gram to, let's say, kilo. It's about 2.5 kilos to 1 pound. So, but just to give an idea, in 1 kilogram, which is what, 2.5 pounds, we have 1,000 grams. This is like 1,000 of that. Okay, 1.5 grams is the total weight of the virus that has brought humanity to its knees. And we were thinking it's going to be Godzilla monsters. We were thinking it's going to be these green aliens in ships from outer space. The Americans thought it would be the Russians thought it would be the Americans, and Americans thought it would be the Chinese. And I don't know, we kept on looking for this huge enemy, and something that is so minuscule, you cannot even see it, and what it has done to us. But done to us in one way, done for us in another way, because even if humanity, a substantial portion of humanity can start to think about this, think about our responsibility as a human race towards the planet, towards other living beings. I think if we can start to have that respect for other living beings, if we can have respect and gratitude towards the planet, I think this is going to be a transformative experience for whole of humanity. That is sort of how I perceive this in the bigger picture. Yes, I just see a lot of nice comments there. And yes, Tony talking about the Modak Shifter, Vikshifter, which Amma had talked about, that the states of the mind going from this dull, totally distracted to one that is capable of focus. I think one very important thing that has happened during this time is that we have actually learned to focus a bit more. For those who chose to do it, but we have learned to focus more. And one thing that it has done is definitely made me practice my music more. Because the whole of 2019, I didn't even touch my drums once. And here every day I'm playing it. So, you know, it's interesting what it makes you do and what it makes you focus on. And you start realizing you didn't need to go out every day. You didn't need to do whatever you thought you needed to do. So I think it is there. And yes, Adele, it is very interesting. It is the breathing that is affected. And again, that's where yoga comes in. In fact, there's a lot of talk about what would be the role of yoga. Now, yoga is not about going and killing the virus and that type of stuff, but definitely improving the immunity for sure, yes. Improving our respiratory function. Because if we have a healthier respiratory system, we are going to be able to fight it off much better than if we have an unhealthy respiratory system. And I think one of the key places that Kalavathi has worked right from the beginning is in helping people breathe. In fact, I think one of your community projects was on teaching people how to breathe.
Yeah.
It was called the Breathing Project or something, I believe.
Yeah, I just used to go out and put free courses on into the community, didn't call it yoga, and just taught people to breathe.
This is absolutely life-saving.
Yeah.
I think even if this is something we can give people, we can give them the tools with which they can enhance their own capacity. And this is why it is not about, though modern medicine wants to find a vaccine, we are again going to have that same old debate, are vaccines good or bad? So, you know, you're going to have that same issue happening. So it's not about finding a vaccine. That is one component of the picture. But the more important component is, can we strengthen ourselves from inside out rather than an outside in approach? So I see a lot of that happening. And yes, again, Louis, I very much agree with you. Where you say, I hope it is transformative, but I worry many people are keen to quickly get back to their normal. It is very true. This is something that we have seen here also. The moment the lockdown was loosened a bit, people went out as if, you know, the end of time has come or something. And, you know, again, all social distancing gone to the wind, and all sort of hand washing gone to the wind, and anything gone to the wind where it's all me first again. So yes, I do wonder whether I'm an optimist, but I wonder whether I'm over optimistic about the humanity at times. But I think that, again, as you also have pointed it out, it's not for us to take control of others' lives. As I often remind people, your responsibility is what you think, you say, and you do. What others think, what others say, and what others do is their responsibility, not yours. And the moment you try to live somebody else's dharma and work out somebody else's karma, you're gone. Please never, never, never try to live somebody else's life and never try to fix their problems. They have to fix it themselves. You can be the parachute. You can be the safety net. You can be the safety harness, but they have to do it for themselves. You can be the oxygen cylinder, but they have to breathe for themselves. You can be the harness, but they have to climb for themselves. You cannot do it for them. You cannot think for anyone. You cannot sleep for anyone. You cannot eat for anyone. So I think ultimately we realize that we have to live our life as we are meant to live it and enable others to find their purpose in life. We need to help. It's not that you say, oh, none of you are my responsibility. So, no, it's not that. It's that each person has to be helped to find the responsibility and live it. But ultimately, whether they choose to do so or not, it is their choice alone. You cannot choose for them. I think we have had quite a long session today, and definitely we will, maybe after a few weeks, try to have another one if Kalavathi feels like inviting me back to home studio. You never know, because as it is, the psychedelic elephant may put a few people off, and then they have another guy called Ananda who comes once in a while and scares the rest of them off. So
I think I've scared a couple of people off here and there.
well, I think of me as your protective agency, okay? Gangster Yogi is protecting you from those who shouldn't be around you. Watching out for you.
No, we'd love to have you
Anyway.
back. We'll reschedule something back in.
Definitely, definitely.
So
shall we close with Loka Samasta?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ananda.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Thank you everyone for being with me, with us, and have a wonderful day wherever you are. Be blessed and be a blessing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ananda. Thank you.